Welcome to Act Dad, the awesome dad show. I'm your host, Mark Savant, and I have a great guest here on the show with me tonight. His name is Mr. Justin McClure, and Justin is a really interesting individual. I love what he and his family are doing on social media, online, and on YouTube, where they have over 1 million followers. I think that he's got a really unique and interesting story to tell, and so I cannot wait to get into it. Justin, how are you doing tonight?
I appreciate that. I'm glad you said that I'm a great guest without even being on the show yet. That's rather presumptuous. I might end up being horrible, so I don't know.
Well, you probably get this all the time, but I feel like I already know you, man, because
You know
you know
what?
you
Yeah, I try to be very transparent and even very raw and authentic because I want people to feel like they know me. I've always been somebody who is more. I'm more interested and impressed with the imperfections of somebody than I am than their perfections or what they're good at, and so I try to like showcase mine as well.
do you think that's why your channel has been so popular? Not to mention, it just seems like you and your family are very real on camera. You're talking about topics that are not commonly talked about in a civil manner, I might add. But do you think that's why your channel is so popular on YouTube?
Well, it started out with strong popularity for our kids, for the twins, and it was people who like cute little kids, and then it back gradually, especially on Facebook, we started doing a lot of life lessons, a lot of things that parents could relate to, teaching our kids about things and principles that we felt were important, and I think people felt there's a big need, and there is for really good, genuine, authentic material on Facebook and YouTube because there's so many pranks and challenges and things that are not relatable, or they're just bad life lessons for the kids. They're horrible for the kids. So we try to entertain while also being positive, which is a hard thing to do these days. A lot of people, like I said, they kind of succumb to the angles of like, okay, what prank can I do, or like what outlandish thing can I do? And like I always say, like I said in the last TED talk, is that it seems that people want to make a lot of videos about kids falling off a bike, but nobody wants to make a video about kid riding a bike. And that's the kind of videos that we do. We try to make videos of kids riding bikes, but also still be equally as entertaining as something that might be dramatic.
Sure, you're not so much going for the shock value as you are, to me, more real conversations.
Yeah, we try to be reality based, but we try to shock people in the ways of like people just like wow, they're so raw and authentic. Like our last YouTube series, people are commenting about how we're staying in a hotel because we've been buying a house, and the hotel didn't have a refrigerator for our kid, and people
Mm.
thought, well, with your type of income or whatever, you should have. And we're just like, no, this is what we felt we wanted to buy. We didn't want to waste money on $700 a night at the Ritz. Like, we're gonna stay here. I'm gonna walk down to Dunkin' Donuts and get milk for my son. I'm not wasting money on that. And so people, I think people like it. They're just like, wow, like most people try to impress us by staying at the Ritz or wherever. It's like we're perfectly comfortable showing you that we're staying at the Motel 6 if that's what we feel we want to stay.
And that's a really good life lesson for your kids too. I feel like it's really easy for us as dads to want to spoil our kids and say, okay, best of the best, and we'll go to the max of our budget, and we're going to go all in. But I don't know that that's really a good life lesson for kids, right? It maybe sets them up for an unrealistic expectation of what the future is going to hold.
I'm not interested in being that person at all. It doesn't matter how much money I ever have, they ever have. It doesn't matter to me. We've done videos before where they cried on camera because we took toys away because I said basically you have too many toys. We're going to give these toys away to somebody, and people can find those videos on Facebook and YouTube, and like the girls cry in the videos, and I'm very comfortable on camera letting them know I'll coach them through this, that you're going to be okay. We're going to give these to some other kids who have no toys. Now they're going to have toys, and that's because you gave these toys to them, and they're going to be appreciative. We can afford to get you other toys that are age appropriate, but you're going to. And even when they cry, I will look them in the eye and say, "We're still going to give them away. I'm going to be here to hug you and let you know life's going to be okay. But just because you cry doesn't mean I'm going to keep them." So that type of video might be shocking in some ways. Some people might say, no, you should let them keep their toys. Other people will say, those are great life lessons to not focus on material things. But at least there's an opinion now. So my advice to people, when they get into what we're doing is like have an opinion and don't be vanilla, because if you are, people are going to forget about you. But if people can think about what you're doing in some way, then you're memorable. And that's when they might subscribe to you, they might follow you. And I think that's why we've gotten a following, a mixture of cute kids, a lot of fun. We have great sense of humor, but we also are very strong in the ethics department and the parenting department.
Sure. And so one of the things that strikes me about you, Justin, is you seem very well thought out, and the way that you communicate with your girls over, again, a variety of really complicated topics, whether it's sobriety or discipline or being a stepdad, and there's a lot of different things that come into play, right? So how have you gotten so natural at it? Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you taken courses, studied? Is it your father? How have you gotten to where you're at?
Well, first off, I just need to correct you. I was never a stepdad. I just don't like that term. So
Okay.
basically, you didn't mean to, obviously, but I just take offense to that, and it's just my own personal thing. But basically, my girls, I got sober, and I never thought I could be a dad or a husband in life. I really didn't. And then so I adopted my girls, but I was never a stepdad. Basically, the adoption and the marriage happened kind of at the same time, pretty much. But
Okay.
some people, anyhow, I just don't like the word stepdad. And I think it's my own issue because when I was growing up, I had a stepdad and he was not nice. He was very manipulative. He was not. So I think the word stepdad to me is, and I'm just now, I'm thinking out loud. I'm like, why do I have offense to that? And I think I had a stepdad growing up and it was a bad experience. Like he treated me like a stepchild. He had a biological son and it was love there. And towards me, it was like not the same treatment. So
Mm.
um,
Well,
it's interesting.
I think
It's
that's an
interesting for me
important,
to think out loud right now on that.
yeah, and I think it's an important conversation to have. It's not something I've ever really thought about, but so I don't know what the correct usage of the term would be, but
No,
I
no, no.
think,
Basically, I want to say thank like you've inspired me to take this further and figure out some video content or something I can do along those lines about, you know, I've always thought, a stepdad is a bad term, but
right,
to people that have stepdads that are wonderful stepdads, that's a beautiful term. But
right.
to me, in my situation, so when people have said online, you're a stepdad, you were, I take offense to that because to me, I put myself back in my mind of how I was treated when I was a child, and it's not the same thing. So I think it's interesting that you've thrown that out there, and it's like I think I'm going to take that term and I can make a good video or a life lesson around that, and that's pretty much from my side of the fence. You know what I mean? So,
Well, I
but
like that. It's applicable to so many people these
yeah,
days. I mean, divorce rates are through the roof, and you've got fatherless, kids growing up without their dads. So, how do you
yeah.
resolve that?
Yeah,
You
no. And so I think a stepdad can be a wonderful thing because many stepdads, maybe they don't, they don't want to adopt or whatever it is. And so that's a great thing. So, um, but to answer your question, I think for me, I've always been a guy, like, I don't know how to explain this, but I guess I could just say, I've always been a guy that like roots for the underdog in a
okay?
way. So when you root for the underdog, you kind of like to, you kind of like to okay, I guess the best analogy would be like years ago I had a Porsche. I had a really nice sports car when I was like 25. I was making great money, but when I bought it, the minute I bought it, I was so embarrassed to drive it around because I didn't want people seeing me in it, that because I thought they might think that's who I was. So I bought a Pinto, a 1974 Pinto as well, and I would drive that around because that was the cool car to me, and I would drive that. So whatever mentality that is, it's also the same person that says I want to be real and authentic and throw my guts out at people before I try to impress them. So as we started making content online, at the same time, I became a better person. I became proud. I became a person I loved, me, because before I was a addict, alcoholic. I was a womanizer. I had a six-figure income, but I was still living paycheck to paycheck. I was sleeping on couches. I had a miserable life. I wasn't happy. I saw a movie, and in that movie, I saw myself in 2012. And the next day, I decided I wanted to change, and I haven't drank since. And the
Wow.
movie is called Unguarded, the Chris Herron story on ESPN. So if anybody out there is struggling with addiction or changing, that's the movie. It changed my life in 2012 in October. I turned on 30 for 30 ESPN, Chris Herron, the Chris Herron story. Saw it, changed my life. Haven't drank since. I worked really, really hard. So going into making content for our kids and our family, it's really important for me to share a message to people because you never know what people need to hear to change. I need to give what was so freely given to me. Now, other people got to work hard because I work super, super hard, but I like to be able to share what knowledge I have. And it doesn't stop with my kids. Just because my girls are 6 years old, I still respect them as individuals. I don't insult their intelligence. They're not smart. They're very smart for their age. And if I can communicate on their level, then we can communicate about anything: sobriety, life, death, adoption, whatever. It's very disrespectful of me to say, "Oh, my kids can't handle that concept." No, I'm a bad communicator if I don't know how to articulate it in a way that they can understand. And so I try to think about how can I talk to my kids so that they can understand these very esoteric concepts, and that makes somebody, I think, a good parent.
And I don't know if you realize how rare that talent is, because so many dads have a hard time talking about these issues. One of the coworkers, a mother, a coworker of mine, one of their pets passed away, a goldfish passed away, and she had a
Mhm.
hard time explaining death to her kid. And that's
Wow.
a goldfish. And so it's just really cool to me that you're able to address those topics, because I feel like as dads, we learn as we go, right? Or
Yep.
so is that kind of how you do it? You just try to like, and you're not talking down to them, I don't think. When you talk to
No.
your daughters, you get down to their eye level, and you're using
I
normal vocabulary.
like I did a video series about my sobriety on YouTube, and basically through that I explained how I became their dad because I adopted my daughters, and like I said, I adopted them after my sobriety, and it was a very great thing because I never felt, like I said, that I could be a dad or a husband, but I got sober, changed my life, and so at some point I know they're going to ask questions about things, so I want them to know about my sobriety, and I want them to know that they've been adopted, but the language that I choose to use is appropriate because it's the truth in that I adopted you, but I was always meant to be your dad.
Yeah.
I always had that calling. I just had to get my act together and I had to find your mom at the right time, and all this had to happen. And so, but I do explain it to them on their level. But I also, the most important thing about a child is that a child doesn't learn the seriousness of life until they get older, and they learn it from adults. So I don't make a big deal out of adoption or other things because they don't care. They're loved.
Yeah.
So we as adults know how serious life can be because we think about our mortgage and we think about our bank accounts and all these things. Kids, if they have a great home and they're loved, they're just like, okay, so you adopted me, so what? Let's go play, and that's simple as that. And then I leave it open. I just say, girls, if you have any other questions in life, if you ever want to ask me anything about it, I'm always here. I'm always, because as they get older, they're going to have more and more conversations. So, I definitely try to speak to them on their level. And I think most of it from my side, it's just come from self reflection. It's come from therapy. And I think a lot of humility. I think I used to have a huge ego. I think I used to think I was the greatest thing in the world and all these different things. And listen, a couple DUIs, 4 times in jail, therapy, rehab, these things will put you in your place, and you either change or you become a complete asshole and you don't change. Either way, the choice is yours. And I decided I wanted to live a better life, a happier life. I had no idea that I'd meet my wife and and I have a family, but I said, you know what, it starts with me. I need to change who I am because I'm not the person that I like. And so when I saw that movie and I watched Chris Heron as this drunk person, I saw myself in that. And I just thought, man, that is such a miserable, pathetic person. And I'm like, oh wait, that's you. That is
Uh,
you. And the moment you look at yourself and you know that's the truth, that's the moment you say, okay, well, I can change it. I feel ashamed right now, but I can wake up tomorrow and I can get a little bit closer to being better. And then, as I say, one day at a time, you can make those changes in your life. And so my one day at a time has led to me replacing the booze and chasing women and the drugs with learning, filmmaking and photography and podcasting and digital marketing and Photoshop and like all these things that I took, and I've built a nice big business with our family that I really deserve, because the point is that if we put our energy in the right places, we all deserve success. We all deserve it. And that's the big message here is when I tell people that I'm doing well, I'm doing great and I deserve it. And that is not arrogant, that's humble, because I changed my life to put energy in a place where now it's like, the universe is giving you things because you're giving it good things. And that's my message to people, is that as long as you keep trying to give good things out, like it might take time. For me, it took a couple years, 3 years or so, but man, it really does pay off at some point.
I like to think that hard work pays off, and when you're being honest and genuine and working toward your goals, um, one step at a time, that's the key. So one of the questions I have for you, Justin,
Yep.
talking about that transformation from old Justin to new Justin, what were some factors that you leveraged to break that cycle? Because getting sober and getting focused and working on yourself, that's something that so many people deal with, but so many people have a challenge with. So, would you attribute community or family?
Well,
What would you attribute it to?
Well, I think a lot of my reasons for, being an alcoholic and such were a lack of family. Like, I made a post on my Instagram yesterday. My father died when I was 4. He was 20. My mother had me at 16. I had a very rough childhood. There was a lot of, lack of love and neglect. So a lot of addicts and alcoholics have that. So you feel that void in your 20s with alcohol and
Right.
booze and chasing women. So I've never really had a support system. I had to figure it out on my own, but that also does make a very strong individual. For me, it really got down to, I remember that I was dating so much that every woman, it didn't matter if I ended up going to bed with them or like whatever. It's like nothing, I could never be happy. No amount of alcohol could make me happy. No next beautiful, nothing could make me happy because I wasn't happy and I wasn't happy living my life. And I think that was the first step, is just me realizing that, like, I just do not like my life because my family, even if they wanted to, couldn't change me, because you have to want to change yourself. And so there was one day, like when I saw the movie, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change myself. And so for then, it was my own doing. I said, well, let me go to therapy. So I started going to therapy every Wednesday for a
Mm.
year. And I started realizing the reasons I was this way. And I started loving myself a little bit more. And so I realized that really what I was looking for, what we're all looking for, is love. And we can't replace that with booze or women or temporary relationships. You replace it with real relationships and real family, or building a family, or loving yourself. So I had to learn how to be alone. I had to learn how to stop drinking, and I had to learn that I was abusing myself for maybe a lack of things that I had in my life, and that I needed to, one day at a time, learn how to be comfortable with me. I was a very insecure person. I had to learn how to love myself, and slowly through that, I got healthier and healthier. And after about a year of sobriety, I realized I don't need to date. I don't need to drink. I feel pretty good. I feel like a good person now. And so you get a little bit more confident. And then I met my wife, and then, like, that started our relationship. But it was really, like, for me, I didn't have a lot of family, but the community of, like, recovery. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery meetings, and I replaced old friends with new friends. And
Mm.
I started doing things that, obviously, I've always been a guy who likes the gym, so I started, getting in better shape again. I started, like, learning, dedicating a lot of time into, like, passions and hobbies, filmmaking and stuff. So I started learning things, and so quickly I put my energy that was here over here, and that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, I think between the community that you've surrounded yourself with and refocusing your attention, that's been big for me too, in cutting out bad habits and replacing them with good. So, I mean, look, you do a really good job, a really clean job with the video content that you guys shoot. Are you self-taught, or did you have any
Yeah.
formal training?
Self
Self-taught.
self taught. So, let me inspire some people out there. Yeah, I've always been I guess, a good photographer, but we made a video that went viral a few years ago, and it was a crappy video. It was just a great moment between my daughters, but we took that little momentum, because a viral video is good for about 5 days, and then, like, people forget about you, right? But I learned. I said, I want to be a good storyteller. I want to keep people's attention, and I want to learn how to do this. So I really self-taught. I'm talking about every day for hours. And think about it. I used to put hours into boozing and drinking and
Yep.
staying at bars. So I just said, okay, I'm going to put the same hours into learning how to be a good storyteller and learn the technical side of film and production and cameras. And so I started learning all that, and I started getting better and better, and I started getting, quote unquote, addicted to that, which was fine. And so then with that, we started getting brand deals. Our fan base started growing, and it started getting exciting, because the payoff was not only monetarily, but the awesome memories that we were making with our family really got me excited and really got me pumped. So what's interesting now is that, you know, I can make something that make most of our YouTube videos are like little mini movies. But if you went back 3, 4 years ago, they were horrible. But I thought they were good then. And that's just the learning curve that you get when you keep doing something.
I think when it comes to video creation and content creation, at least the way that I look at it is just try to make each piece of content a little bit better than the last one. And like you
Yep.
said, over the course of years, it just ends up sorting itself out. So another question for you, and this is something I think that a lot of people think about. I know I do, and that is trying to separate family life from the ever integrated work life, right?
Yep.
Work life balance is no longer a thing because I feel like I go out to dinner or go to the playground and my phone is bleeping at me the whole time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So as someone who's deep in that social digital stratosphere, how do you balance that, Justin? What
Well,
do you do?
my wife and I just did a TED talk in North Dakota. It should be on YouTube in a month or so, but it was called, how to balance your family and your business when your business is your family. So literally, we did a TED talk in front of a few hundred people, and basically, the balance from my side is that I tell my wife that for me to be happy as an individual, I don't believe anyone who says that they completely live through their family. It's like we're all driven to have a great experience as human beings individually. So I tell my wife, if I'm going to be a good husband and a good dad, a good father, I need to pursue also things that Justin loves.
Mhm.
Golf. I box. All these things. Sometimes we work out of our house, but I go to Panera for 6 hours because I just got to. I need to think. So we have great communication, and that communication is that my wife, like, what do you need to be happy as an individual outside of this family? And so for me to be an effective dad and husband, there are things that I need as an individual human being, and I think that's perfectly fine for people to admit that. I think people are kidding themselves that they say they just want to, they're just completely happy with their family. For me, I'm a very masculine person in the way that I'm completely attached to achievement. If I'm
Sure.
not achieving, I'm not happy. So I'm not going to be a good husband or a good father if my business is failing. So I tell my wife, let me go make this business work, and I'm going to be happy. But as far as going out to the playground and all that, I just leave this at home. I just leave it at home. Ironically, and this is interesting for people when they get to know me. I'm very I wouldn't say I'm intense, but I think the phrase that people would use around me is like, I don't suffer fools gladly. I don't have time for
Hmm.
excuses. I don't. I'm straight talk. I'm real talk. I don't do small talk well. I'm there if there's a passionate conversation, if it's genuine, but I don't hang out. I'm not a hangout guy. I'm there with purpose. So when I go out with my kids to the playground, I'm there with purpose. I'm there to be there. So ironically, we make social media content, but I spend very little time on social media. I spend very little time intensely. I'll spend 15 minutes in the morning and the evening, commenting, and I create. I don't consume, and I think that's been very helpful because when you get to the level that we're at with millions of followers, you're gonna have a lot of negative comments. You're gonna have people who say vile things. I just don't even pay attention. Maybe you'll like the next video. If you don't like that, maybe you'll like the next thing. And we get a lot of pushback sometimes because people don't like this or that. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you'll like the next thing. If not, there's a blue unfollow button or there's a red unsubscribe button. Feel free to click it.
So before you create a topic or you decide, hey, I want to have a conversation about this on camera, do you chat about that with your wife
Yeah, yeah,
beforehand
yeah,
and make sure?
yep, yeah. We're a team, and I'll give you an example. Like, I'm going to do a video very soon about death. About my daughters are starting to ask me, what does it mean to die? And I feel, wow, these are the things that nobody talks about, but
Right.
this is what gets me excited because I think, Justin, how challenging is that to do that on a way that's not depressing or morbid? And I'm like, how can I do it? But also, if they're asking me, that I need to answer the question. And my job or my role is that I want to be able to share that with people so that they can use what I'm doing maybe to help them in their efforts as being a parent or explaining very difficult concepts. And so So the idea that I have is that we're going to go to a flower shop and we're going to get a bunch of flowers, and we're going to go to a cemetery and we're going to look at names, and we're going to say this person, probably used to be a good mother. Let's put a rose there. This person probably was a good father, and let's talk about death. They're not here there now. They're not here now, but at one point they lived and they were just like us. They were kids at one point, and then they became parents, and maybe they served in the military. Maybe they were accountants, but now they don't live anymore. But they're in here, and their family thinks of them. Because really in life, we're just a system of memories. That's all that we are. And we fail to live at some point, and other people remember us because they're a system of memories. So I already have a good idea, and that makes me excited because I'm like, if that can do well, then that further builds our brand, which is what, if I'm known for anything, I want it to be as somebody who tried to make inspiring and positive content in a world where people aren't doing that now. And hopefully somebody will come along who is inspired by us and becomes way bigger. And then other creators, they'll say, man, I was inspired a little bit by the McClures. And that's kind of the goal with that. So I want to do a video about that. It's like we do a lot of social experiments about, strangers or bullying, all these things that I'm very passionate about. When it comes down to it, I'm just I'm extremely grateful, man. I just look at the world and the suffering and the empathy for like people who suffer, man, who have no running water, who have a lack of family their whole life, who don't, who are abused, and it's just like it can be a very cruel world, and I have a lot of empathy for those people. So to be in my position, I see no other. I see it my duty to give something back because I'm in such a great place. I have a beautiful family. We do well financially. We've earned that, yeah. But some people work their ass off, and they haven't had maybe the luck that I've had. Um, so man, it's just I'm sober. I was able to get sober. A lot of people can't. They fight these fights their whole life. And so from my side, it's just really like being really grateful and just wanting to like give a little bit that back. And I'm super blessed that my mind thinks this way. I'm super blessed that I have a good attitude. And so it's just really being appreciative of that too.
It's really easy, I think, in this day and age where everyone's flashing fancy cars and get rich quick schemes, to just kind of focus on what you should be grateful for. And I
Yeah.
was at a Tony Robbins um, event about a year ago, and he made that same remark that you want to be happy, you need to trade your expectations for gratefulness. And,
Yeah.
and I
I think I heard that he's great, by the way. Yeah, he's great.
yeah, really thought about that. That one really meant a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
to me. So, one more question before I hit you up with a quick couple rapid fires here.
Okay.
Um, so you're tackling all these really complicated, difficult, intense topics with your family, which are all important and relevant. Is there anything that you're nervous about? Any conversation that you're like, you know what? Oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for that one yet. Like, are there any conversations?
The full transparency, like I adopted the girls whenever if they want to dig deeper and they want to learn about the actual biological who who basically he left my wife when they were born. He was complete. I don't want to talk bad about somebody, but the facts are he
He
completely
wasn't
left.
ready. He wasn't in.
He completely left. He never saw the girls. Like he never. So when people say, did he give up parental rights? He never had any rights. The adoption was so easy because the courts were like, this guy me has only he's only I'm the only dad they've ever known. Like so it was very easy. So but my point is that if they when they start asking, they want to know specifically who he is. That might be a little bit difficult. And I know that I'll do the right thing and service to them, whatever they think they need to find the answers that they are looking for. But I think that's something that I hope never happens. I mean, but that's the only thing that I guess that I'm a little bit nervous about. Um, Everything else, anything religion, God, death, love. I mean, whatever. It's all great conversation. I really. It's the same thing with an adult though. If an adult wants to sit down and talk to me about something deep, then I'm like I'm right there. I'm right
Yeah.
there. But the moment they want to talk to me about something that I feel is shallow or vacuous, I'm not interested. So it's kind of the same thing.
Very good, man. Love that perspective. So, as a storyteller, Justin, what's your favorite story to tell the girls or to read the girls? What's the favorite story?
Um, that is a good question. Let me think for a second. I don't, I've never read a story more than once.
They
I
don't
don't.
they don't beg you, oh dad, that one, we want to hear that
Wait, no,
story.
we read so many stories, but we just read a bunch of different ones. I'm just trying to think of one that probably anything. They're not there yet, but anything that's like Mark Twain related, I'm really gonna love that at some point. I really love him as a storyteller. His humor, like I really think he was super brilliant, and I think he has some great. Like I read Huckleberry Finn and all these things a million times. So whenever they get to the point where they can kind of grasp that, I'll be happy to really share some of that.
Good one. Good one. Well, Justin, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to sit with me and the Act Dad community. I think that what you're doing and the path that you're carving is going to be really helpful, not just for your family, but for fathers and families all around the world. So a lot of respect, Justin.
Hey,
Any
I'm no thank you for having me. I really appreciate anyone who's trying to do what I'm doing, which is just trying to make an effort to make fatherhood cool and fun and all these great things. So I think you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. So we're both doing the same thing. So I'm equally happy to be here.
Yeah, I definitely am interested in having these substantive, challenging, difficult conversations with awesome dads like yourself. Just
Thanks, man.
not enough of that. And I think that a world where dads are spending more time and thinking about these things and spending more time with their families, it's gonna be a better world, man. That's the word.
Awesome. Yep, for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Justin. If you guys are interested in everything that Justin's doing, you can check him out all over social media at McClure.com, right?
No,
Or
no, just go to my Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Justin K. McClure. Our family is the McClure family on Instagram, Justin McClure there as well. Yeah, definitely feel free to hit me up if there's any questions or any way I can help. Then feel free to reach out for sure.
I'll definitely put some links in the show notes as well. Thank you, Justin. Thank you much.
Appreciate it.